This is Miss Alice, and I want you to notice something. The men who used to chase are not chasing anymore. Not because they became lazy, not because they gave up on the idea of love, not because something broke in them that a little encouragement could fix. They stopped because they did the math. Without announcing it, without a movement or a hashtag or a public declaration of any kind. They just stopped. And here is the part that nobody on my side of this conversation wants to say out loud. The silence that replaced the chasing feels better to them than the chasing ever did. I am Miss Alice, and today I'm going to tell you exactly why. 11 reasons, each one real. Each one something I have watched happen with my own eyes, because the men who stepped back deserve to have what happened to them named clearly. And the women who are wondering where the good men went deserve an honest answer more than they deserve a comfortable one. Reason number 1, the finish line kept moving until he stopped running toward it. You tried. That is the part nobody gives you credit for. You worked on yourself. You learned how to communicate. You showed up consistently. You improved in every direction. The culture told you improvement was needed. And every time you arrived at the level you were told would be enough, the level shifted. What was impressive became expected. What was appreciated became assumed. What was enough became the baseline from which new insufficiency was measured. You were not running toward a destination. You were running on a treadmill designed to keep you running, to keep you spending energy in the direction of proving yourself to someone who had decided that proof was always one more demonstration away from being sufficient. At some point, you recognized the treadmill for what it was. And you stepped off, not in anger, in the quiet clarity of a man who finally understood that the finish line was never going to hold still long enough for him to cross it. And that the running itself was the point of the game rather than the arrival. Stepping off the treadmill was not giving up. It was the first genuinely free decision you had made in years. Reason number 2, effort stopped producing anything it was supposed to produce. There was a logic you operated on for a long time. A reasonable logic. The logic that genuine effort, consistently applied in the right direction, would eventually produce genuine connection. You texted first. You planned the dates. You showed up with thought behind the showing up. You remembered the things she mentioned and brought them back into later conversations because you were actually listening. You tried in the specific ways that trying had always meant something in every other area of your life. And it produced nothing that effort is supposed to produce. Not connection, not appreciation, not the specific warmth of being received by someone who recognized that what you were offering was real. It produced assessment, calibration of whether your effort cleared the bar that day. Receipt without acknowledgement, the specific and corrosive experience of giving something genuine into a space that absorbed it without registering it. You kept trying longer than you should have, because you thought maybe the next effort would land differently. Maybe the next time would produce what the previous times had not. It did not, and the accumulation of efforts that produced nothing except the expectation of more effort eventually reached a number that made the pattern impossible to ignore. You stopped, not because you stopped caring, because caring into a void is not caring. It is an expenditure with no return, and you finally gave yourself permission to stop making it. Reason number 3, you were made to feel like an applicant rather than a partner. Think about how the dynamic felt. Every date felt like an interview, where the criteria for passing were unclear and potentially designed to be unpassable. Every conversation felt like a test, where the correct answers were being monitored by someone who had not disclosed what correct meant. Every interaction felt like an audition for a role that might or might not exist, depending on factors outside your awareness or control. You were not being encountered as a person. You were being evaluated as a candidate, and the evaluation was conducted from a position of complete informational asymmetry. She knew what she was looking for. You did not know what she was looking for. She knew what the criteria were. You were expected to meet criteria that had not been communicated. She knew whether you were passing or failing. You were expected to perform without feedback until the performance was deemed insufficient. That is not the dynamic of two people trying to connect. That is the dynamic of a job interview, where the interviewer has already decided the position is probably not going to be filled. You were not applying for a role. You were a person who wanted genuine connection with another person. And when the dynamic consistently treated you as an applicant rather than a partner, you eventually stopped submitting applications. Not bitterly, with the clear eyed recognition that the process was not designed to find what you were offering. It was designed to filter until there was nothing left to filter. Reason number 4, your sincerity became invisible while performance got rewarded. This is the one that did the most damage because it did not just change your behavior. It challenged something fundamental about who you believed yourself to be. You were sincere, genuinely. The interest you expressed was real interest. The care you showed was real care. The investment you made in understanding who she was, what she wanted, what mattered to her, that was not strategic. It was just who you are when you are actually interested in someone. And it was consistently received as less compelling than the men who were less sincere and more strategic. The man who was slightly unavailable, who created uncertainty about his interest, who kept her wondering rather than showing up consistently in ways that eliminated the wondering. That man produced a response that your sincerity never could. Not because the response was better for her, because it was louder, more stimulating, more immediately activating than the quiet and sustainable warmth of a man who was simply and genuinely there. You watched sincerity lose to performance enough times that something in you got the message. Not the message that you should become less sincere. The message that the environment you were offering your sincerity to was not equipped to receive it. That the thing that made you worth knowing was the thing that made you invisible in a market that had learned to mistake stimulation for value. And once you understood that, the motivation to keep offering your sincerity into that environment quietly disappeared. Reason number 5, kindness became expected and loyalty became unremarkable. You remember when it shifted. Maybe not the exact moment, but you remember the accumulation of moments that produced the shift. The door you opened that received an expression somewhere between neutral and irritated. The compliment you gave that was deflected rather than received. The thoughtful thing you planned that was consumed without acknowledgement. The consistent presence you maintained that became so reliable it stopped registering as something someone was choosing to provide. Kindness became the baseline expectation, not the evidence of a person who was genuinely kind, the minimum below which you were failing. And loyalty, the specific and increasingly rare quality of a man who means what he says and shows up the way he said he would, became boring, predictable in ways that worked against you rather than for you. The quality that should have been your greatest asset became the quality that made you easiest to take for granted. You were not a person to them. You were a utility, functioning correctly as long as the kindness and loyalty were being delivered. Noticeable only when the delivery stopped. You stopped delivering, not to punish anyone, because continuing to deliver something that registered only in its absence was a form of invisible labor that nobody had agreed to compensate you for. And the man you were becoming inside that labor was not a man you recognized or respected. You stopped to find out who you were when you were not running someone else's errands with your own heart. Reason number 6, every effort felt like unpaid labor with no contract and no end date. Modern dating started to feel like a job with the worst possible terms. Show up consistently, perform at a high level, meet standards that shift without notice, receive inconsistent feedback delivered according to her schedule, have no guaranteed outcome regardless of performance quality, and accept that the position can be eliminated at any time without explanation or severance. No rational person accepts those terms in any other area of their life. No one builds a career on a foundation where the employer can move the performance criteria without communication and eliminate the position without cause. But men were expected to accept those terms in the most important area of their lives, and to do so without complaint, because complaining about the terms was itself evidence of not meeting the terms. You opted out of the contract, not because commitment frightened you, because the contract was not a contract. It was a situation where you provided everything and received the possibility of something in return. And the possibility kept being exchanged for another possibility rather than converting into anything real. The men who found peace found it partly in the specific relief of no longer being party to an arrangement that had only ever been binding on one side. Reason number 7, you realized that being alone was not what you had been taught it was. You had been taught that being alone was the punishment, the condition that existed in the absence of successful love, the thing that good men avoided by working harder, being better, making themselves more worthy of selection. And then you were alone, not by catastrophic failure, by the quiet withdrawal of a man who had stopped participating in a system that consistently produced worse outcomes than the alternative. And you discovered something that nobody had told you, and that the culture actively worked to prevent you from discovering. Being alone was fine, more than fine. It was quieter than you expected, more spacious, more genuinely yours in ways that the time spent chasing had never been. The mornings that belonged to you, the evenings structured around what you actually wanted from them, the energy that used to go into the performance of romantic pursuit, going instead into things that responded to it proportionally. The gym, the work, the friendships that required no audition, the projects that returned the investment you made in them, the life that was taking shape in the space that chasing had previously occupied. You did not feel like a man who had failed to find love. You felt like a man who had found something the pursuit had been preventing him from accessing. And the peace of that finding was nothing like the loneliness you had been taught to fear. Reason number 8, the language being used about you became something you refused to absorb. Bare minimum man. If he wanted to, he would. Men are not willing to commit. You heard it in conversations, in content, in the ambient cultural messaging that had decided before the evidence was examined that whatever was wrong with modern dating was something men were doing. You heard it and you noticed something important. The men being described in those statements did not sound like you. The men who would not commit, who were doing the bare minimum, who were not trying hard enough, that was not a description of what you had been doing. You had been trying, consistently, with real effort and real care and real investment in outcomes that kept not materializing. And the narrative that cast you as the problem in a situation where you were the one consistently showing up and consistently being found insufficient was a narrative you eventually stopped accepting. Not with argument, with the quiet refusal of a man who knows the difference between accountability and misdirection, who can hear a story about himself and recognize when the story is not accurate, who does not need to defend himself against a characterization that has no relationship to who he actually is. You stopped absorbing language designed to return you to chasing, and in the stopping, you discovered that the language had less power over you than you had previously allowed it to have. Reason number 9, purpose replaced validation as the thing that gets you out of bed. There was a version of you that checked the phone first thing in the morning. That oriented the early part of the day around whether something had arrived overnight that confirmed you were wanted. That carried a low-level awareness of whether you were being pursued or ignored or somewhere in the uncertain middle throughout every ordinary day. That version of you is not who you are now. The man you became in the quiet after stepping back does not check the phone for validation first thing. He checks it for the things that are actually his. His work, his training, his creative output, his actual relationships with people who chose him without requiring a performance in exchange for the choosing. Validation from the romantic pursuit stopped being the fuel because the pursuit stopped. And in the absence of the pursuit, the question of what actually drives you got answered by whatever rushed in to fill the space. For most men who made this shift, the answer was purpose. The specific and sustaining fuel of a man who is building something that matters to him for reasons that have nothing to do with whether anyone is watching or approving or responding to what he is creating. Purpose does not ghost you. Purpose does not find you insufficiently exciting. Purpose returns your investment in proportion to what you put in. And a man fueled by purpose is a different quality of man from the one who is fueled by the desperate hope of being chosen. He is calmer, more grounded, more genuinely present in everything he does, because his presence is not divided between what is in front of him and the background anxiety of whether he is wanted enough. He is just there, doing what he is doing, and finding that enough. Reason number 10, chaos became something he could not return to after experiencing peace. You know this feeling if you have been through it. The first weeks of stepping back had an unfamiliar quality. The absence of the familiar friction, The specific quiet of mornings that did not begin with the low-grade tension of managing a situational dynamic. The evenings that belonged to you rather than to the ongoing maintenance of something that kept requiring maintenance. It felt strange at first, the way the absence of a noise you have become accustomed to feels strange before it feels good. And then it felt good. And then it felt like the only thing you wanted the texture of your daily life to feel like. Once a man has genuinely experienced peace, not the temporary relief of a conflict resolved or the brief calm between one drama and the next, but the real sustained daily peace of a life that does not contain unnecessary chaos. He cannot return to the alternative without knowing exactly what he is returning to. The women who want to reach him now, with the argument that loneliness is worse than chaos, are making an argument he has already evaluated. He has lived both. He knows which one costs more. He knows which one leaves him less of himself at the end of each day. He is not going back, not because he is punishing anyone, because he is protecting something he did not know he needed until he had it. And the man who has found something worth protecting does not surrender it to people who did not help him build it. Reason number 11. He stopped trying to be chosen and discovered that choosing himself changed everything. This is the final reason, the one that contains all the others. The shift that happened was not about women. It was about the fundamental reorientation of a man who had spent years making himself available to be selected and finally understood that the selection was never going to happen on terms that honored who he actually was. The energy that went into being chosen, the effort, the performance, the constant calibration of himself against standards designed by other people for other people. That energy redirected toward his own life, his own development, his own sense of what he wanted the days to contain and what he was willing to do to make them contain it. He started choosing, not waiting to be chosen. He chose how to spend his time. He chose which relationships to invest in. He chose what kind of work to pursue. He chose what kind of man he wanted to be in the years he had left. He chose peace over performance and purpose over validation, and himself over the ongoing project of making himself acceptable to someone who had not decided he was. And in the choosing, something happened that he could not have predicted. He became worth choosing, not because he changed who he was to make himself more appealing, because the man who has chosen himself has a quality of presence and groundedness and genuine self-possession that is impossible to manufacture and immediately recognizable to anyone paying real attention. He is not chasing. He has nothing to prove. He is simply and completely himself, and that is the most attractive thing available. He is just not performing it for anyone. Here is what I want every woman who stumbles across this video to understand. The men I have described today are not damaged. They are not broken. They are not men who need to be fixed or encouraged or guilted back into participating in a dynamic that consistently produced their diminishment. They are men who paid attention, who learned from what the pattern kept teaching them, who made a rational decision based on observable evidence and found something genuinely good on the other side of it. The silence is not a crisis. It is the sound of men who finally chose themselves. And if you want to reach a man like that, the path is not through shame or manipulation or the argument that he should be chasing again. The path is through being the kind of woman who makes choosing her feel like an extension of a man choosing himself, not a contradiction of it. I want to hear from you. Which of these 11 reasons describes your experience most accurately? The moving finish line, the invisible sincerity, the moment you chose yourself and discovered what was on the other side. Tell me in the comments, because the men reading this right now, who are in the middle of this transition, need to hear from the men who already completed it. Share this if it said something true. This is Miss Alice, and I will be back with more of what nobody else will say. Subscribe if you are ready to keep hearing it.